Professor Dave and Chegg here. We have a basic understanding of atomic structure. Now it's time to talk about the ways in which atoms can come together to form compounds, as this phenomenon is responsible for the existence of all the substances we can see around us and inside of us. There are some different ways that atoms can form compounds, so let's learn about those now.
Atoms can come together to form compounds via chemical bonds, which can be of a few different types. One type of chemical bond is the covalent bond. This is when atoms share electrons with one another. A group of atoms that are covalently bound is called a molecule. A molecule can be an element when made of two or more atoms of only one particular element, or it can be a compound when made of two or more atoms of two or more elements. So molecular nitrogen is a molecule that is an element, since it is made of only nitrogen, while water is a molecule that is a compound, since it is made of hydrogen and oxygen. Any molecule will have a chemical formula. This is where we use the symbols from the periodic table to represent the atoms in the molecule, and the subscripts after each symbol tell us how many atoms of that element are in the molecule. If no subscript is present, it means there is only one atom of that element. Here is methane, or CH4, represented by a structural formula. So instead of just writing the atoms, we depict the atoms and the bonds, so that we can see the specific connectivity of the molecule. Sometimes we will use other ways of depicting molecules, such as this space-filling model. This shows a rough estimate of the space that is taken up by each atom in the molecule. Another common method is the ball and stick model. Here we see tiny spheres representing the atoms, and we can also see the bonds themselves. Another type of chemical bond is the ionic bond. Whereas covalent bonds involve shared electrons, ionic bonds involve a transfer of electrons from one atom to another, which will result in ions. An ion is an atom or molecule with a formal electric charge, either positive or negative. This will happen when a neutral atom or molecule gains or loses electrons. Take, for example, neutral sodium and neutral chlorine. For reasons we will discuss later, sodium has a tendency to lose an electron, and chlorine has a tendency to gain an electron. For this reason, when near each other, sodium will transfer an electron over to chlorine. What results is a positively charged sodium ion, also called a cation, and a negatively charged chloride ion, also called an anion. What we will come to appreciate as the central theme of chemistry is the fact that positive and negative charges attract one another, while like charges, either both positive or both negative, repel one another. So here, if we have cations and anions, they will bond with one another via ionic bonds. These are different from covalent bonds where electrons are shared. Here, it is simply an electrostatic interaction between cations and anions, which causes them to form an orderly lattice, also known as an ionic solid. We will learn more about ionic solids and their properties later.
So to summarize, we now understand that atoms come together to form compounds via chemical bonds. If these are covalent bonds with shared electrons, a molecule is formed. If electrons are instead transferred to form ions, these ions will then interact via ionic bonds to form an ionic solid. Professor Dave for Chegg. See you next time.